The Flight Attendant and the Fugitive Part 1. Chapter 1, No Eye Contact, No Questions. The call came at 2:14 a.m. Alice Edwards was in a cramped crew lounge at Geneva International Airport, halfway through a lukewarm coffee and already fantasizing about a glass of cheap rose and her duvet. She'd just come off a 14-hour Zurich-Cairo-Zurich loop and was trying to pretend she hadn't kicked off her regulation heels under the table. Her bun was crooked. Her shirt had a mysterious pen mark across the shoulder. Her mascara was smudged like war paint. She was supposed to be done for the night. Her phone buzzed again, harder this time. She ignored it. "Don't," her colleague Gina warned, without looking up from her paperback. "That's dispatch. You ignore them, they'll stick you on a cargo flight to the Arctic with a crew full of interns and one toilet." Alice sighed and picked up. "This is Alice. Urgent charter request," the woman on the other end said, in that clipped, no-nonsense tone that always made Alice feel like she was being recruited into the CIA. "Departure in 37 minutes. Hangar 12. Client is high profile. Protocol read." Alice blinked. "Protocol read. No eye contact. No questions. No names. Say yes or we call the next attendant." Alice looked at the clock. Then at the smudge on her sleeve. Then at the coffee. Still full. Still bad. "I'm in." 10 minutes later, she was in the locker room, reapplying lipstick and retwisting her bun with the kind of furious precision only sleep-deprived professionals could achieve. She changed into a clean uniform, navy skirt, fitted blazer, scarf knotted just so at the throat, and sprayed a quick mist of expensive perfume from a mini atomizer someone had left in her bag. Vanilla and smoke. A bit dramatic for a red-eye, but apparently she was flying with James Bond tonight. She hurried through security, flashed her ID to the hangar guard, and made her way across the tarmac. The night air was sharp with jet fuel and dew. Her heels clicked against the concrete like a ticking metronome. There it was. The jet was matte black, sleek as a bullet, no airline branding, no registration ID she could see. That was rare. And very expensive. The airstairs were already down. A tall man in a dark suit was waiting at the base, arms crossed, earpiece tucked discreetly into one ear. He looked like the kind of person who'd once shot someone in a hotel lobby and never blinked about it. "You're late," he said. "I was early when you called," she replied sweetly, breezing past him. The interior of the jet was dimly lit and decadent. Cream leather seats. Chrome and crystal fittings. A bar stocked with every liquor imaginable. The air smelled faintly of cedarwood and aviation-grade luxury. Alice stashed her bag in the galley, checked the crystalware for dust, and ran through the pre-departure list with muscle memory precision. She'd done this 100 times before. But never quite like this. A chime sounded from the cockpit. "Passenger en route," said the pilot's voice. 2 minutes. Alice stood by the service station and smoothed her skirt. She felt her heart rate pick up in that way it always did before takeoff, not nerves, exactly. Anticipation. Then she remembered, no eye contact. No questions. No names. A challenge. Fine. She could play the silent, smiling air doll if they wanted her to. The car pulled up just outside the hangar. The passenger got out. Tall. Midnight suit. No tie. One hand in his pocket. The other carrying a phone. Even from here, in the muted wash of the overhead lights, He radiated power like it was something stitched into the lining of his coat. He climbed the stairs without a word. Without looking at her. Alice dropped her gaze automatically, but not fast enough. Because he looked at her. And he smiled. Just the one corner of his mouth. Not friendly. Not flirtatious. Almost amused. Like he already knew she wasn't going to follow the rules. He passed her without a word and slid into one of the back-facing seats by the window, long legs stretched out like he owned the cabin. Which, for all she knew, he did. Alice made herself busy at the bar, pretending to inventory glassware. Her eyes kept darting back. She couldn't help it. There was something about him, something too polished to be accidental. The kind of man you didn't notice in a crowd until you did, and then you couldn't look away. Everything about him felt slightly off in a way she couldn't name. Too still. Too composed. Like a painting trying to look like a man. He didn't speak. He didn't take out a laptop or ask for a drink. He just sat there. And watched her. The pilot came on the intercom. Cabin secure for takeoff. Alice did her final check, trying not to look directly at the passenger as she passed. His eyes followed her anyway. As the wheels lifted off the runway, she felt the strange gravity of being in a sealed tin can at 30,000 feet with a stranger who could afford to buy the whole damn airport and never blink. Not exactly ideal flirting conditions. But somehow, she wasn't bored. They reached cruising altitude. Alice did the welcome service, pouring him a glass of chilled water with a slice of lime, just to see if he'd speak. He did. Thanks, he said, in a voice that was smooth, low, and British. Barely a trace of Italy in it. Maybe a vowel here or there, curled just a little too richly. And then. You're new. Her hands stilled. I'm not. No, he said, looking at her like she was a puzzle he hadn't quite solved yet. You're not. Alice stepped back. Professionally. Polite smile. No more talking. But her pulse was racing. So was her curiosity. Because whoever this man was, this client with no name and no photos, he wasn't what she'd been warned about. He wasn't cold. He wasn't distant. He was watching. And for some reason, she couldn't wait for whatever came next. Chapter 2, Gun in a Suit Jacket. The jet had been in the air for 22 minutes. They were gliding in smooth silence above the ink-dark clouds, high above cities and customs and whatever rules applied back on solid ground. Up here, there were no names. No pasts. Just altitude, crystal glasses, and leather seats the color of cream. Alice had offered the man, Mr. Viry, a selection of refreshments during ascent. He had declined. Politely. But she'd caught the flicker of thought behind his refusal, like someone running a calculation in his head. Now, mid-cruise, he changed his mind. She heard the subtle chime from his call button, the kind of soft, muted ding designed to sound classy and unbothered. She turned immediately, smoothed her skirt, and walked toward him with practiced ease. He was sitting with his left ankle crossed over his right knee, one arm thrown lazily across the armrest. The position looked casual, almost negligent, but Alice recognized something beneath the surface, stillness. A kind of elegant tension. Not stiff. Just, ready. His eyes tracked her as she approached. Not obviously. Just a flick of his gaze upward, then back to the glass in front of him. Empty. Miss Edwards, he said, as if they were already familiar. I've changed my mind. She smiled politely. Of course. What may I get for you? Champagne, he said. Something cold. Something French. There was the tiniest curve to his mouth when he said it. Not quite a smile. Almost a challenge. Alice nodded. Of course, Mr. Viry. She turned toward the galley. It wasn't far, just steps away, stocked with gleaming crystalware and an over-curated selection of elite liquor. She opened the cooler drawer and pulled out a half-chilled bottle of Krug Grande Cuvée. Not the most expensive in the world, but expensive enough that her hands suddenly felt more aware of themselves as they moved. Back in the main cabin, Mr. Viry hadn't shifted. Still cross-legged, still lounging like a man who'd never rushed a thing in his life. She set the tray on the console table beside him and began the pour. A thin stream of golden fizz filled the flute in an elegant cascade. Then, as she handed it to him, he shifted to reach for it. His tailored jacket opened. And there it was. The gun. Black. Matte. Nestled just inside the inner holster under his suit. Easy reach. No safety strap. She didn't know the make or model, her expertise stopped at miniature perfume bottles and meal trays, but she knew the look of something that had been used before. It wasn't decorative. It wasn't for show. It was his. For a breathless half-second, she froze. Just the tiniest hitch in her breath. Not enough to cause a scene. But enough for him to notice. His hand closed around the champagne glass. She straightened, eyes flicking back to her professional mask. She didn't blink. Didn't flinch. Just gave a soft smile, like she hadn't seen anything at all. But when their eyes met, she knew he knew. And he knew she knew. Perfect temperature, he murmured, lifting the glass to his lips. She didn't reply. The bubbles caught the light as he sipped, and for a second, it felt like the entire cabin was holding its breath with her. Sit, he said suddenly, gesturing to the seat across from him. Join me. Alice blinked. Oh, I'm not, she began, automatic and instinctive. I won't tell, he interrupted. It's a long flight. And I hate drinking alone. She hesitated. There were rules about this sort of thing. Boundaries. Professionalism. No fraternizing with high-value clients, especially when they were carrying unregistered weapons and traveling under fake names. But she also remembered the way he smiled when he stepped onto the jet. Like he already knew she wouldn't say no. Alice sat. She folded her hands in her lap. Kept her spine straight. Her legs were crossed neatly at the ankles, like some proper duchess from a bygone era, though inside, her thoughts were racing. Is this the part, she said, with careful levity, where I pretend I didn't just see a loaded firearm under your lapel? Mr. Viry paused. Then he laughed. Low. Rich. Unforced. The sound of it washed over her like warm honey, dangerously charming, disarmingly human. You're not very good at pretending, he said. I was trying to be polite. You were trying not to run. Alice tilted her head. Should I? I'd be disappointed if you did, he replied, lifting his glass. You don't strike me as the running type. She smiled. Slowly. You don't know what kind of type I am. I've been watching you since Geneva, he said. I know a few things. That made her spine stiffen. Just barely. Excuse me. Not in a creepy way, he added quickly. I mean professionally. I requested you. Specifically. Alice blinked. Her hands went still. You what? I asked for you. I pulled up crew rosters and profiles. Your name stood out. She stared at him. Why? Mr. Viry gave her a long look, then took another sip of champagne. He didn't answer right away. Then, as he set the glass down, he leaned in slightly, just enough for the shadows from the overhead light to catch along his jaw. I like people who break the rules, he said. And I needed someone who could keep a secret. Alice wasn't sure whether to be flattered or afraid. Probably both. She forced herself to look away, heart thudding in a steady, high-octane rhythm that had nothing to do with altitude. I'm just here to serve drinks, she said quietly. And I'm just here to negotiate a peace deal between men who like to kill each other over lunch. He said it lightly. Too lightly. Alice's eyes flicked to the bar, then back to his perfectly relaxed posture. Then the smile dropped from her face. You're serious? His eyes met hers. Steel behind velvet. Do I look like I'm joking? The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut glass. Alice stood, smoothing her skirt with both hands. I'll get you a refill. She turned, heels clicking softly as she walked back to the galley. Behind her, Mr. Viry sipped his champagne in perfect silence. And in the reflection of the glass cabinet, she saw him watching her. Still. Always. Chapter 3, One Job, Unlimited Perks. By the time they landed in Dubai, the temperature on the tarmac was 31 degrees Celsius, and it was nearly 2 in the morning. The cabin lights had been dimmed, and the city below glittered like a broken chandelier in the dark. Alice had been on her feet for nearly 10 hours, but she felt wide awake. Too awake. The man calling himself Mr. Viry had spoken only twice more since their strange little champagne exchange. Once to request a Turkish coffee, black, no sugar, and once to ask if the in-flight Wi-Fi supported encrypted proxies. She didn't know what that meant. She told him it probably didn't. He didn't seem surprised. Now, as the plane taxied toward the private terminal, he stood and buttoned his jacket with a smooth, practiced motion. Alice couldn't help but glance at the place she'd seen the gun earlier. It was gone. Or moved. Or maybe she just wasn't good enough to see it again. He caught her eye as he reached for his leather carry-on. You're curious, he said casually, like they were discussing weather. She blinked. About what? Me. A flicker of a smile. But you're very good at pretending you're not. I'm just doing my job. He stepped closer, suitcase in one hand, the other sliding into his pocket. There was a comfortable arrogance in the way he moved, like nothing in the world could surprise him, except, maybe, her. I'd like to offer you a different job, he said. Alice froze. Excuse me. A position, he said. Travel assistant. Personal liaison. Sort of a fixer meets companion meets body double situation. We'll workshop the title. She laughed once, short and incredulous. Is this some kind of joke? No. It's a solution. To what problem? He looked at her like that should have been obvious. Your life. She stood there, stunned. That was the thing about this man, he didn't offer things the way other people did. He didn't sell or charm or sweet talk. He simply stated what he wanted like it was already happening, like all you had to do was catch up to the decision he'd already made. I'm not looking for a new job, Alice said stiffly. Yes, you are. You just don't know it yet. I have a job. He smiled faintly. Not anymore. Your supervisor's going to receive a very unpleasant security report in approximately, he checked his watch, 7 hours. Her stomach dropped. Wait. Are you saying you're getting me fired? I'm saying the company will discover, by complete coincidence, that you had a lengthy, unsanctioned conversation with a high-profile client whose file was marked level red. No names, no eye contact, no conversation. And yet. He gestured between them. You and I are practically old friends. Alice could barely breathe. You set me up. I offered you champagne, he said mildly. You broke the rule. I admired that. That's not admiration. That's manipulation. And this, he gestured toward the private cabin, the soft leather seats, the unopened bottle of Louis XIII cognac glinting in its crystal case, this is opportunity. Alice folded her arms. What exactly would I be doing? Traveling with me, he said. Private jets, international itineraries, exclusive hotels, events, negotiations. I need someone who can observe quietly, react quickly, and keep their mouth shut when needed, and open when needed even more. You'd have access to every resource. Clothes, security, vehicles. No uniforms. No schedules. You'd make double what you're currently paid. Possibly triple. Alice stared at him. You want me to be, what? Your assistant. I want you to be useful, he said. She stiffened. I don't think I'm interested. I think you're tired of turbulence, Miss Edwards. I think you're full of yourself, Mr. Viry. That earned a genuine laugh. He looked at her like she'd surprised him, and he enjoyed it. Then the door beeped behind her. The cabin was docked. Time to go. She stepped aside as the jet bridge connected. The cabin pressure shifted slightly. The pilot opened the cockpit door and gave a small nod toward the passenger. Good flight, sir. Antony gave him a tip of his head and then turned back to Alice. Think about it, he said. You have until morning. And then he walked down the stairs and into the Dubai night. She didn't sleep. Not really. The hotel room the company booked for her was modest but clean, business standard beige walls, too many throw pillows, that lemony disinfectant smell she could never quite ignore. Her phone buzzed once around 6 a.m. No caller ID. She didn't answer. When she got the email at 8:12 a.m., she was sitting cross-legged on the bed, coffee going cold in her hand, CNN on mute in the background. Subject: regarding charter flight 8291 conduct violation notice. She opened it. Read it once. Read it again. They cited her for unprofessional conduct, breach of confidentiality protocol and unsanctioned interaction with a level red client. She was being placed on immediate suspension pending investigation. Effective immediately. She let the phone fall to the mattress. Her hands shook. Not from anger. Not from fear. From something else. Possibility. He had been right. She was tired. Tired of tight schedules and last-minute roster changes, tired of repeating the same safety demonstration for people who didn't care, tired of customers who called her sweetheart and asked if she had a boyfriend and got aggressive if she didn't smile enough. Tired of her small life in her small flat with its chipped mugs and beige walls. She wasn't dumb. She knew what kind of man he was. She'd seen the gun. She'd felt the electricity of power rolling off him like heat. Whatever he was involved in, it wasn't legal. Not completely. Probably not even a little. But there was something else. She mattered to him. Even if just for her usefulness. Even if just for now. And maybe, for once, that was enough. By 10:30 a.m., she was dressed in civilian clothes and stepping into the back seat of a waiting car. The driver didn't speak. Just handed her a card with an address scrawled across the back in perfect, precise handwriting. Suite 701. Almra Tower. Noon. Don't be late. Oh. That's the end of this part, but trust me, the next one is even more thrilling. We drop fresh episodes every day, so don't miss out. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned, you won't want to miss what's coming next.
Because every broken heart deserves a comeback. If this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe for more emotional romance every week. Hit like, drop a comment, and ring the bell so you never miss a moment of romance, redemption, and powerful love. And don't keep the drama to yourself, share this story with someone who lives for twists just like you. Thanks for listening, and remember, sometimes the best comeback is becoming unforgettable.